MIT study, 95% of generative AI pilots fail to deliver business impact in enterprises. Lots of people were saying AI is dead, it's a bubble, it's all going to come crashing down. Look at this, 95% of it fails. Good morning, everybody. I am here today, as always, with the latest AI news and updates. So we're going to be running through a number of news articles from the last few days. It's been a relatively quiet week in the world of artificial intelligence. Still a lot going on, obviously, there always is, but no massive releases to speak of. So we're covering more like ethical and larger picture issues this week because there isn't anything immediately pressing. We are going to be covering a couple of things. Wired, the kind of tech magazine, I guess you'd call it, published an AI written article from a freelancer. It slipped through their safety net and they retracted it and they've published an apology and they've talked about how it slipped through, which I think is more interesting than the fact it did slip through. So we're going to talk about that. We're going to have a look at a recent issue of Grok where Grok chats have been exposed in Google results. So this happened 2 weeks ago with ChatGPT, with people who were sharing their ChatGPT conversations. Suddenly they got indexed by Google. And on a live show, I pulled up a few, including one that was somebody's dream journal, a conversation they were having with ChatGPT that was open for all the world to see on Google. It just happened to Grok as well. So hundreds of thousands of Grok chats have been exposed in Google results. Also going to look at this claim that GPT-5 discovered some new interesting mathematics. Now, I don't know enough about this because I'm not a professional mathematician, but I found somebody whose opinion I trust who's been talking about it, so we can have a look at it through a more nuanced angle rather than it did new maths, which is a bit too simplistic. And then I also want to swing back to the MIT study. So I've discussed this a few times over the last few days, but it's an important one. So there's this MIT NANDA study saying that 95% of generative AI pilots fail to deliver business impact in enterprises. It's really hard to get a copy of the study. If you do want to get a copy, go to mlq.ai. They've posted an open copy of it. MIT are putting it behind a little wall. Sorry, NANDA are putting it behind a wall and making it difficult to get a hold of. So I've actually shared it with my community recently and everyone was like, oh, thank you. I've been trying to find this. So it's really hard to get a copy of it. I've got a copy of it. I've read it. I'm not that impressed. And I'm going to talk about why that is. I think a lot of people have not read this study and they're just listening to the headline and parroting it back. And that is leading to, it's helping to fuel this idea that we've seen all this week that there is a bubble pop about to happen, that the financial markets are going to crash because AI is not delivering. Part of it is this study, but when we actually read the study, it's not that simple. It never is. You know me. I'm actually going to insist on reading these things instead of just reading the headlines out. What a terrible thing to do. Good morning, Emin, and hi, everybody. I'm also taking questions, as always, so I'll hop into a news article. We'll cover that, and then I'll switch over to the questions. We'll move back and forward. And as I said before, everything's going to be available on YouTube and in a free newsletter that comes out every single day, which gives you a rundown, a text rundown of what we covered in the live. I shouldn't use the word rundown, should I? Sorry, Rowan Chung. If you're not subscribed to the Rundown AI, it's probably the best AI newsletter out there. And I say that as somebody who publishes my own. Rowan's is better. It's fantastic. Go and check it out. So first up, Wired. So Wired are, I think, a UK-based. They used to be a UK-based magazine. They've got an article here called How Wired Got Rolled by an AI Freelancer. We retracted a story in May, and here is what happened. If anyone should be able to catch an AI scammer, it's Wired. In fact, we do all the time. Our editors receive transparently AI-generated pictures on a regular basis, and we reject them accordingly. We report often and aggressively on AI slop and its effects on the media and other industries, and we're privileged to have a team of brilliant fact-checkers as part of our newsroom. Unfortunately, one got through. On April the 7th, one of our editors received an email with the subject line, Pitch, do you take this Discord server? The rise of hyper-niche internet weddings. It had all the hallmarks of a great Wired story, a quirky internet subculture, fun visual potential, and a larger point about love, community, and identity in an era where physical spaces often feel less real than our digital ones. Cool, sounds good. So they got this pitch. After a standard back and forth about payment, framing, etc., it was assigned to an editor. The edit process raised no alarms. The writer accepted suggestions and responded to notes promptly and amiably, and we published on May the 7th. Very interesting. Over the next several days, it became clear that the writer was unable to provide enough information to be entered into our payment system. They instead insisted on payment by PayPal or check. Interesting. So this is what gave it away, not the writing. It was the payment around the writing, so the actual conducting of business. So now suspicious, a Wired editor ran the story through 2 third-party AI detection tools, both of which said the copy was likely to be human-generated. Okay, so 1, why hadn't they run it through these detectors before? I'm sure they must have. So I don't know why they're highlighting it now. And 2, AI detectors are not very good. So they ran it through detectors and it said, oh, it's probably human-generated. We have to remember that more money and more research and more time is being spent on making the generation better. And less money and time and energy is being spent on detection. So there's initially, when we had 3.5 and even 4, GPT-4, we had a bit of an arms race where the detectors and generators were competing to make sure that the detectors could keep ahead of the generators. That was given up, basically, because the generators are given hundreds of millions of dollars in investment, whereas there just isn't the money to train detectors to keep up, basically. So it was always a losing race. A few companies stayed in it. Is Watson one of them? A few AI detection companies, but they're basically dead now. Although Grammarly just added an AI detection tool, interestingly, last week. So a closer look at the details of the story, though, along with further correspondence from the writer, made it clear that the story had been an AI fabrication. I would love to know the details of what they actually saw. I'm sure it wasn't just M dashes. After more due diligence from the head of research desk, we retracted the story and replaced it with an editor's notes. So we made errors here. The story did not go through a proper fact check process or get a top edit from a more senior editor. First-time contributors to Wired should generally get both. Agreed. That's the job of an editor. An editor should always have full confidence that writers are who they say they are. Fabulists and plagiarists are as old as media itself, but AI presents a new challenge. It lets anyone craft a perfect pitch with a simple prompt and play act the role of a journalist, convincing enough to fool us. We acted quickly once we discovered the ruse, and we've taken steps to ensure this doesn't happen again. In this new era, every newsroom should be prepared to do the same. So Wired, in their defense, they did basically a mea culpa. We messed up. We have retracted it. This is what happened. So I think plaudits to them for doing so. This is not a problem that's going to go away, but it opens up a couple of interesting questions here. It got through the editorial department. It got published in Wired, and that was not what raised alarm bells. What raised alarm bells here was the payment and the fact that the person needed a strange form of payment. They needed it either via a personal check or PayPal. So it's a bit scammy sounding. So that means that the actual article that was published, nothing wrong with it. The only thing that was wrong with it was that it was published by artificial intelligence, which Wired have a policy against, and they will not publish artificial or AI slop, as they call it. But it doesn't sound like any of the readers flagged this up. It doesn't sound like any of the editors flagged it up. So the content itself was fine. It was fine for consumption within their publication. Obviously, they'll push back on this because they don't want to promote AI slop, and I 100% understand where they're coming from because they are a traditional media source. But these AI generators and article writers are going to get better and better. And if they're already tricking not just the audience of Wired, but the editorial staff of Wired, there's not much hope moving forward. So we're having a similar race I just mentioned, between detectors and generators. Detectors fell behind and gave up a while ago. Now even professional newsrooms and editors and senior editors can't notice this stuff. So we get to that question of, does it matter? Does it really matter if it was generated by AI? If the function and the final effect of it is the same? I'm not saying it does or doesn't matter. I think it's a question that needs to be answered. The other thing here is how many other AI-generated articles have Wired got published right now? They found this one. There could potentially be others, and not just Wired, but every other publication who accepts outside writers. How many others have got AI-generated content? They just don't know about it. This one happened to come to the surface because the author asked for payment via PayPal, but how many others are there? So I think it's more interesting because of that. It's fantastic to see Wired basically saying, yes, whoops, we messed up. Yikes, this is what happened. But it opens up that bigger question of, one, does it matter? And two, how much more of this is already happening and we just don't know about it, and it's just quieter. These guys got caught, but maybe other people did not. But yeah, I'm going to move over to questions. Again, if you're on this live, make sure you're subscribed on YouTube. We give the segments of the live are cut up into nice little videos to allow you to skip over to any segment you want. So make sure you're subscribed there and to the newsletter as well. I'm going to hop over to some questions, if there are any questions. Generally, there aren't very many questions at the beginning as people are just joining in, and then they start to flow. Like yesterday, I hopped on to talk about a paper. Hey, Tamas, good morning. Hey, Amin, good morning. I hopped on yesterday about 8 p.m, I think it was, to talk about a paper and just got a flood of questions, so ended up just answering questions instead. Oh, hey, Abby, how are you doing? I'm seeing lots of familiar faces. Okay, so no questions. If you do have a question, drop it in the chat. And hi, Fruit and Chris, Andy. Okay, it is very cool seeing familiar faces again and again. Very cool. The next one I want to talk about was, what should we do? Let's talk about Grok. So 2 weeks ago, ChatGPT had an issue where if you shared a chat and you had to tick a little box, but it allowed that chat to be indexed on Google. And I think a lot of people didn't realize exactly what it meant. And it meant that you could type in the site operator. Let me check if I can do it now. So I could type in site:\ChatGPT. Let's see if it works now. Oh, still works. Interesting. So if you use the operator site:\chatgpt.com inside of Google, that allows you to search for certain words or certain phrases within just one website, so ChatGPT. So for example, I've managed to pull up, oh, this might be a custom GPT. It's a custom GPT, that's fine. What happened previously was people's personal chats that they'd shared were being indexed on Google, and you could go in and find them. So I was able a few weeks ago to type in site:\ChatGPT dream and find people discussing their dreams, for example. I did also site:\ChatGPT.com rash, and I could find people talking about rashes and stuff like that. Like, it was bad. It was not something that you want out on the internet. So exactly the same thing has just happened with Grok, apparently. So hundreds of thousands of user conversations of Elon Musk's artificial intelligence chatbot Grok have been exposed in search engine results, seemingly without user knowledge. So let's see if we can pull some up. I'm not trying to be grim here, so it's just grok.com. I've never used it on the website. So let's see if we can get some dream interpretation from Grok, or if they fix this. Nope, I've got it. Here we go. Let's find out about someone's rash. These are anonymous. Here we go. Medicinal uses of white oak treatment. Okay, here's a good one. Sorry, I feel bad. Reasoning from first principles. Give me all plausible treatments which could help with excessive mucus production in the nasal and upper airways. For example, previously you mentioned near-infrared light and far-infrared light, dupilumab. Give me everything. So this is somebody who suffers from excessive mucus production in their nose. Bless them. This is anonymous. I can't see who it is, but it has been published on Google. So they use Grok Heavy, which is the top thinking model for this, and Grok Heavy thought for nearly 3 minutes about reasoning from first principles on excessive mucus production in nasal and upper airways. Oh, it's a very detailed answer. It's a really detailed answer. Grok Heavy is really good. It's a great model. And then this person goes on to say, what about carbocysteine? You did not mention explicitly. Could that help? And then it goes on, etc. So exactly the same thing has happened. What else can we look for? I don't know, girlfriend. Let's see if somebody's having problems with their girlfriend. Oh, okay. No, that immediately went pornographic. I should have expected that was a... It is Grok, after all. Let's find a dream interpretation. Oh, AI interview questions and insights. Okay, these aren't too bad. Mind map analysis. Oh, people are using Grok for quite sensible things, apparently. Here we go. Grok. Last night we talked about DMT and other fun stuff like the nature of reality. So I think somebody's getting high and chatting to Grok whilst off their face on DMT, which makes my evenings look a lot more boring. That's and Grok responds, hey, yeah, we had a pretty wild chat about DMT and the nature of reality, didn't we? Unfortunately, I don't have a memory bank that lets me pull out our exact conversation. That's a shame. It doesn't have persistent memory. And then it goes on like this. So talking about the nature of consciousness. So it's happened again. What's happening is these AIs have an ability to share, and these shares are getting indexed by Google. So Google has web spiders that go around the internet and they crawl various different websites, and once they are crawled, they can get indexed. And this happened with ChatGPT, and now it's happening with Grok, which means that these articles that were shared by people on Grok, they're probably sharing it with a friend, they didn't mean for it to go on Google, suddenly appear and can be accessed by people like me, who are now talking about excessive mucus production to a live audience of several hundred people. So you can see the problem here. What happened with ChatGPT is, as soon as this became apparent, Google and ChatGPT worked together. It seems to get it shut down. So you would put in the site operand in order to find the exposed chats in ChatGPT, and it would just come back empty. So the fact that it came back empty rather than giving you some results suggests that Google hopped on it and was like, yep, we got this, we'll sort this out for you. So they managed to put it down very quickly. So there must have been cooperation between ChatGPT and Google. Google could have just let them hang out to dry, but I think they're friendly enough and they realize that this is a bit of an ethical issue, so they shut that down. So it looks like on Thursday, Google has indexed 300,000 Grok conversations. It has led one expert to describe AI chatbots as a privacy disaster in progress. You don't really need to be an expert to come to that conclusion, but sure. Okay, sir. So 370,000 conversations. Among chat transcripts seen by the BBC were examples of Musk's chatbot being asked to create a secure password, provide meal plans for weight loss, and answer detailed questions about medical conditions. Some indexed transcripts also showed users' attempts to test the limits of what Grok would say or do. We're all guilty of that. It's a lot of fun. So in one example seen by the BBC, the chatbot provided detailed instruction on how to make a Class A drug in a lab. So yeah, it is a privacy disaster in progress, according to Professor Luc Rochier, Associate Professor at the Oxford Internet Institute. He told the BBC. Yes, he's right. It's not very profound, but yes, it is a privacy disaster. I agree. So yeah, if you use Grok, your chats may have been leaked. If you use the share function, that's obviously going to be a small subset, because you still have to actively want to share it with a friend or a family member, for example. I don't know why the guy was sharing his excessive mucus production chat, but hey, who knows? Right, I'm going to hop over to questions. Remember that everything can be found on YouTube if you need to hop off the live, or if you're listening elsewhere to the longer video. On YouTube, there's going to be shorter versions of each of these sections. You can watch this section that we just covered just by itself. So it's a much easier way to get into the information as well. So make sure that you are subscribed. You can probably tell that I've been asked by my business partner to mention the YouTube a lot more, and so gracefully as well. So we are on our way. Let me have a look it up. I think we're nearly at 3,100 subscribers. Yes. We should hit 3,100 subscribers today. We are adding, how many a day? We're adding like 10, 20 a day. There we go. Yeah, 20 subscribers a day, which is pretty fast for YouTube, apparently. I've been talking to other people who do YouTube, and they say, yeah, it's a slog. It's a slog. You just need to grind your way to 10,000, and then it becomes a bit easier. But at this rate, it's going to take me, I worked it out, it's about 5 years or something, so I'm hoping it's going to speed up. Right, just scrolling through the questions over on TikTok. I might start doing evening chats as well, because they're quite fun. I had a beer, to be fair, which makes it more fun. I had to stop myself swearing a lot more. What's the best possible way that can stop that from happening? Do you mean sorry, hyperfocus, I didn't see when this question came through. With the Grok chats being exposed, you just don't share them online. So there's a share button that allows you to share chats. If you're referring to the Wired article, what's the possible way for them to stop AI generated articles making it into newspapers and magazines? Ooh, it's tricky, really tricky. This is the question with content production. It's also like with exams, for example. We need to start getting people to do exams in person, pen and paper, in a hall. Otherwise, we're not going to know whether they wrote it themselves. This was already the case with the internet. It's just a lot easier now. But I don't really think we can get people to come and write articles in our newspaper's headquarters. I don't know the way around this. So I think the bigger question that we need to start asking is, does it matter? It's a tricky one. I think content production is just going to change, and how we consume and what we consume will change moving forward. Because I don't know. I think your question is a really good one. I don't know how they fix this. Hyperfocus says, I've tried vibe coding, a lot of fun. Why did I learn code? Did you learn code? So yeah, vibe coding is fantastic. For anyone who hasn't tried it and has heard the term vibe coding and has thought, oh, no, I don't know, I'm not good at computers. Don't worry. Just go to somewhere like Lovable dot, it's not .com, I always get this wrong, .dev, lovable.dev. I wonder if that's because the bra company is lovable.com. Oh no, lovable.com doesn't exist. They need to buy that. So Lovable is also a UK kind of bra and underwear company, which is, it's unfortunate. So try out lovable.dev, not the bra company, but Lovable is a vibe coding tool. Even if you are not technical, or especially if you're not technical, give it an idea for a website or an application you'd like to make, and then just watch it do its thing. Vibe coding has limits, but as somebody who's just starting out, you don't really need to worry about them. Just go ahead and play around with it, and you can build some really cool stuff. I recommend, like, literally either now on this live or afterwards, just hop onto lovable.dev, create a free account. You don't need to pay. Try it out, and you'll probably realize, oh, this is really cool. It's a bit like having that first ChatGPT moment, which I know everyone here has probably had, where you use ChatGPT for the first time. You're like, oh, hello, what's this? This is a bit magic. What's going on here? It's like that, but it creates software for you. So definitely go and try it out. Hyperfocus says, can build anything. I've gone nuts. Yeah, it can. There are limitations. So there will be coders who will call us out here and say, oh, no, you can't do production level software. That is true, but it's really good for prototyping. It's really good for anything internal. I build lots of internal tools that help me on a daily basis. And you can take what you've built on Lovable and you can scale it up to production in other ways. I won't go into details, but you can start with vibe coding and then build up from there. But for now, just play around with it. It's a lot of fun. User 69999944 says, what can I charge a business for fixing an opportunity pipeline and CR integrations? Depends. So you need to use value-based pricing. You need to work out how much fixing their opportunity pipeline and their CRM integrations is worth to them. If they can generate an extra $100,000 per year, you're going to charge $10,000 or $20,000. If they can generate an extra $500,000, you're going to bump your price up to $100,000. You're going to do it as a portion of the additional value that you can offer, and you need to make sure that obviously that is enough for you. So the base level needs to be to cover your time and your work, your skills, obviously, but always do the pricing on value. So it requires doing an audit and working out how much they're losing or how much more they could make if they tighten up their systems, and then helping them realize what that number is and then charging a portion of that, which seems fair, 20% or so. Or if they're going to make an extra $500,000 per year, then you could potentially, that's $500,000 this year, $500,000 next year, $500,000 the year after because of this tightening up. Then you would price based on the repeated additional revenue. So you would work it out like, okay, the next 3 years going to make an additional $1.5 million. This is going to cost you $300,000, for example. So you always use the value as one of the points in your pricing. Pricing is complicated though, because there are going to be a number of different factors you need to take into account. How much are your competitors charging? How much does it cost you to provide that service? You need to make sure your price is higher than your cost. How much value are you providing to the client? Additional value, etc., etc. You need to merge all of these together in order to come up with a pricing. And then on top of that, you apply things, pricing psychology, like coming up with multiple packages to push them towards the package that you want them to actually choose. ChatGPT can help you with this. So have a conversation with ChatGPT, have it walk you through a pricing calculation, basically. I've written prompts that do this as well. We're working on sharing my prompt library. So when that's up, I'll give you a link for that as well. But the key factor is going to be how much extra money or how much in cost savings does this deliver to the business. You start there. That's the key thing here. Anyone use Base 44? No, I don't know many people who use Base 44. Base 44 is mainly famous because of the acquisition or the valuation. Is it the valuation? No, it's the acquisition. It was acquired by, Wix. It was acquired by Wix, the website maker. So base 44 is like Lovable, it's like Replete, I'm blanking out on the other ones, Bolt, etc. It is a vibe coding tool. Oh, interestingly, Airtable released a vibe coding tool. I don't know why. I think they're just jumping on the bandwagon. So base 44 is one of them. I've heard it's fine. They're doing a huge push with creators right now. When I actually talk to people who use vibe coding tools, I've never met somebody who's, oh yeah, I use base 44. I don't know why that is. Apparently they have 400,000 users, so people are using it. It's just most people I know use Lovable or Bolt, and then they graduate onto Cursor. So I haven't actually met anyone that uses base 44, but I'm sure it's good. Honestly, most of these vibe coding tools are similar because they all have the same models in the back end. Lovable just added GPT-5, for example. They're all based off the frontier models, the base models. They just give you a really nice interface on top of that, and the ability to connect to things like Superbase for your database needs. That's your back end. So they make it a lot easier, but they are all ultimately using the frontier models like GPT or Claude in the background. So the differentiation between them is mainly the user experience, the user interface, and then any kind of additional system instructions they have that allow you to work back and forward with the base model. I really like Lovable. It's just the one that I use personally. I'm actually off to Stockholm to go and meet them on Monday. I'm not saying that I like Lovable because they're paying me to. It's just one that I use. But I am going to go meet them and have dinner with them as well. So I'll probably be even more enthusiastic about them next week. But base 44, I've played around with it, but I haven't used it to develop anything fully. And I don't know of anyone who actually does use it, but there must be people. Do you use it, Emin? I'm interested. If you want to have a look at dyslexic vibe coding with Python, peek at my GitHub Hyperfocus. I have a lot of neurospicy members in my community and lots of students, and they swear by generative AI as a really useful way to help to sort and order their thoughts and to get a lot done as well. So I think generative AI, ChatGPT, etc. is just a godsend for the neurospicy and the neurodivergent community and dyslexics and lots of other people. Really exciting. Our business is okay. We're paying a 23-year-old 5 figures for a couple of weeks' work. Yeah, if you can prove the value, but you need to be able to prove that value. So if you've not done it before, then it's going to be hard to get a business to agree to that. Really hard. If you have case studies, if you have testimonials, if you have reviews, if you can show you can do the work and you can save a business 6 figures, then yeah, of course they're going to pay you 5 figures. And it doesn't matter if you're 23. And over in Silicon Valley, the hotshot coders, a 24-year-old, I think is he 24? He was offered a 125 million compensation package by Zuckerberg's team. He said, no, I'm working on my own startup. I don't want 125 mil. Zuckerberg called him personally and said, I'll give you 250 million, $250 million for a 24-year-old to come and work over at the Meta artificial superintelligence lab. So age is not an issue here. What you need to prove is that you can deliver. So if you are saying you're going to save them $100,000, if you're saying you're going to help them add $500,000 onto their pipeline, you need to be able to prove that. And then sure, they'll easily pay you 6 figures, 5 figures. You're saying 5 figures plus? Yeah, no problem at all. High fruit, yeah. You need integration milestones, clear timescales and payment at each stage of development. So you need to de-risk it for them as much as possible. If you just go and say, I want $100,000 and I'll work for 2 weeks and I'm going to save you $1 million over the year, that's probably not going to work, especially with no track record. If you say, okay, these are the different milestones. So week 1, I'm going to hit this. Week 3, I'm going to hit this. Week 5, I'm going to hit this. And at these points, these are the payments you're going to release. Then yeah, you're de-risking it for them as well. So if you don't have a track record, that's going to be one way to do it. You need to think of it from the business's point of view. But the actual absolute amount of money, that 5 figures for a job, yeah, no problem. So when I go and give a workshop to a business, I charge currently, my base rate is about £1,500, so about $2,000, and that's for 1 hour of work. You could get paid very well by businesses to help them with this kind of stuff. The most I've been paid is $4,000 for 1 hour of work, which is more than I used to get paid in a month. Because when you are working with enterprises, when you're working with businesses, they do have deep pockets, but you need to be able to prove your worth, and then you can access those kind of funds. I'm going to hop over to, I think I might jump over to the MIT paper, because it's an important one. So a lot of people are throwing this paper around. Very few people have read it. This is not unusual. But this paper it's come out from MIT and the NANDA, lab, and it's got a scary headline. MIT study, 95% of generative AI pilots fail to deliver business impact in enterprises. Lots of people are throwing it around. Lots of people are saying AI is dead. It's a bubble. It's all going to come crashing down. Look at this. 95% of it fails. Nobody's actually read it, and it's really hard to get hold of it. So go to mlq.ai. This is the easiest place to find it. Previously, to get a copy of it, I had to use the Wayback Machine on Internet Archive to get to the original paper from MIT, because they've now pulled it back and made it harder to get. I'm wondering why that is. Why they pushing this paper so hard in the media, but making it very difficult for people to get. Now, if you go to the actual MIT NANDA site, you need to fill out a Google form for them to send you a copy of the report. And I have multiple people in my community who have done so and not been sent that report. So it's like, why are you, if you're confident in your research, why are you not sending this to people? Bit weird. So go to mlq.ai. They have an archive version of it there. It's right at the top of the page right now. Otherwise, you can use the Internet Archive. You can use Wayback Machine and find it. It took me about 20 minutes to find it yesterday. Once I read through, I understand why they might be pulling back, because it's not very good. It's not a very good paper, unfortunately. So normally, if you've seen me talking about these things, normally I'll talk about sample size, I'll talk about methodology, etc. That's okay. The sample size is fine. It's 300 enterprises. It's not the most, but it's not tiny, because sometimes these studies are like, we talked to 6 companies and they don't like this. That's not a study, is it? That's 6 people. The big thing here is their definition of a success. So they're talking about 95% of AI pilot projects fail. So it's okay. So what is success here? Success is, I'll read it to you. Here we go. The 95% failure rate for enterprise AI solutions represents the clearest manifestation of the Gen AI divide. Organizations stuck on the wrong side continue investing in static tools that can't adapt to their workflows, while those crossing the divide focus on learning capable systems. Okay. Generic LLM chatbots appear to show high pilot to implementation rates, 83%. Okay. However, this masks a deeper split in perceived value and reveals why most organizations remain trapped on the wrong side of the divide. So what's happening, and I've read through this paper, it's not very long, thankfully, it's only 26 pages, but what's happening is they are defining a successful AI project as a fully embedded agentic workflow. They've defined AI project very narrowly, and of those projects, not that many are working. Fine. However, they're finding that just giving the staff members access to ChatGPT, giving the staff members access to Gemini, Claude, etc., leads to huge amounts of implementation. The staff members are using AI at a grassroots level, but any productivity gains caused by using AI on a daily basis, the actual staff members, is not counted as a success, because that is not a pilot project. So it's only when it comes from top down, and the leadership have said, we're doing this pilot, we're going to get all the smartest people in the room, we're going to work out what the best way to use AI in our organization is, and then they've applied that within the organization. Only when they do that has it been considered a pilot project. And then all of the general usage of AI, which is arguably the useful stuff, all of the additional productivity gains, the time saved, the increase in quality from using AI has been ignored, because that is not a pilot project. So 83% pilot to implementation rates for generic LLM chatbots. So as if they are just using ChatGPT, 83% of those rollouts to get people using it have succeeded, because the staff members know that this stuff works. And there's also a big section about shadow IT, which is something I talk about quite a lot. Basically, if you've ever worked in a large organization, whenever there's a new form of IT that gets pushed out, just trying to find the shadow IT thing. Whenever there's a new form of IT that gets pushed out, generally it's coming from the leadership, it's coming from IT, and it's a nightmare. It's a nightmare for anybody who is in the organization, because it means a new password, it means new mandatory training. Terrible. It's not something that people want. With shadow IT, that happens when staff members start to use a piece of IT without it being sanctioned, without it being an officially top-down based project. That's happening with ChatGPT and LLMs like that. And this means that the company is not necessarily saying we want you to use AI, but the staff members are going ahead and doing it. We call it BYO LLM, bring your own large language model. It's an incredibly chunky and unhelpful acronym. So I'm trying to find out where the actual Let me find the shadow. Here we go. Shadow AI economy. So what's actually happening at the 300 companies that they talk to, 90% of the employees at these companies are using LLMs regularly. So they're using ChatGPT and other large language models, 90%. So nearly everyone. Only 40% of the companies in the study have purchased subscriptions for them. So it means nearly everybody, this additional 50% of people, that's shadow. This is people bringing their own chatbots to work. They're using ChatGPT on their phone or their laptop without it being officially sanctioned. What this tells me is that the staff members are finding AI incredibly useful on a daily basis. They're not necessarily using AI through the projects that they've been told to do, the pilot projects, but they are using ChatGPT. They are using these unauthorized LLMs to get their work done better and faster. So this whole paper, and again, I recommend you have a look at it, what it highlights to me is not that AI is failing, it's that the implementation, how businesses are going about AI is failing. Because what they're doing is they're trying to do it from the top down. They're trying to force AI into existing workflows from the top down with management and the IT department saying, this is how we're going to do it. We're going to automate, we're going to add agentic workflows, etc. And they fail. Most of those are failing. Surprise. Yeah, of course they are. If you look at non-AI projects and change management and when these kind of projects are pushed into large enterprises, I looked it up and around 70 to 80% of normal projects fail. So yes, there's an additional failure using these new AI tools when doing top-down projects, big pilot projects, but it's not that much. It's an additional 10, 15% failure rate, which considering the technology, as we know it now, is only 2 years old, is not that surprising, especially considering when technologies often take multiple years to roll out inside a particular industry. So the top-down pilot programs are not working. Okay, sure. But what's happening is at the grassroots, the staff members are using ChatGPT every single day. 90% of these respondents are using it. Only 40% of them are meant to be using it, but 90% are using it because it is useful. It's shadow IT. So this tells me more about the failure in implementing this. This tells me that the leadership in IT are trying to enforce AI workflows from the top, when instead they need to be talking to the staff members and working out, all right, what are you guys actually using this for and how can we support that? One, by buying them actual copies of ChatGPT so they don't have to use their own bloody accounts at work, but just helping them to work out how to use AI more effectively at that grassroots level and then capturing those productivity gains. So it's not about big flagship projects, it's about helping the actual workers in their business. That's not how they're doing it. But unfortunately, this paper is focused on those big flagship projects which are not working. That's not an AI fault. That is a leadership problem going on. So go ahead and read the article. Oh, hey, Andrew. Andrew has also done a great video. Sorry, I say also as if what I'm saying is valid. Andrew's done a really good video on this paper as well. Andrew, I'm just talking about the Gen AI divide, state of AI in business 2025. Which I'm not very impressed with, and I'm hoping more people will actually read because it's quite hard to get hold of. So yeah, go and grab a copy of it. It's at mlq.ai. It's on the front page. Have a look at it. It's 26 pages long. I think it's a failure of implementation. They're not listening to what their staff members are doing with AI, and 90% of their staff members are using AI. Instead, they're trying to enforce top-down projects on them, and they're not working. But that is not that surprising. So this paper, unfortunately, is being taken and the headline read and used to say AI as a whole is failing. No. It's something very different is going on. So please go and read it and form your own opinions. I know it's the hard thing to do. It's easier just to read the headlines, but hey, sometimes we need to read things. So I'm gonna hop over to, oh, hey, Simon Squibb. Everyone's here. Emin says, I don't. Oh, so base 44. I don't, but I keep seeing ads for it on YouTube. I haven't vibe coded yet, but I will. I had a breakthrough with my custom GPT last night, though. What I found, it seems better to program them like you're coding in Python. Yet the more in-depth instructions you give to AI, the better it's going to give you results. And when we use programming languages, it's a very precise form of communication, an extremely precise form of communication, because that's used to be all that computers could understand, whereas human natural language is a lot more natural, it's more fluffy. There's a more diversity of meaning in our particular words, whereas with a programming language, you can't have that because it collapses. So if you are talking to it like you're talking in Python, if like you're talking in a computer-based language, that allows you to have that increased focus, and that's going to be helpful. Functioning dictionary, great. So I would definitely say check out vibe coding. If you're having successes with a custom GPT and you have skills like Python, then vibe coding is a great way to get a prototype up and running very quickly. I think you'll be surprised. Like, it is magic. And then you can take it over to Cursor and develop on it. What you can do, this is my workflow, do the prototype itself within Lovable. I will then link that to a GitHub repo, push to the repo, and then you can pull that repo into a local directory on Cursor, and then you can continue the work in a more advanced tool. That's like the next step, but for now I would just mess around with Lovable, honestly. Oh, and when it comes to Base 44, I just haven't used it enough. I'm sure it's good. They are on a marketing binge because they got acquired for, how much was it? It was a lot of money. They got acquired for $80 million. So a guy called Shlomo, he took 6 months to build it, bootstrapped, he vibe coded Base 44. Nice. And then he sold it to Wix after 6 months for $80 million. Cash. $80 million cash. Good job, Shlomo. So the main thing that I know about Base 44 is this acquisition. I know that their marketing team has ratcheted up their work. Now they have cash and they're working with Wix or under Wix. So that's why you're probably seeing YouTube videos right now. And you'll see a lot of influencers who are also talking about it. They haven't reached out to me. I'm very offended. Hopefully they're not watching this and seeing me talk about Lovable and how great it is. Euro adventures and sports. How will AI affect the job market? Well, that's a big one. That's a big question. It will. I think that's the first thing that we need to get over. Some people are still denying it, basically saying, oh, it'll be fine. Yeah, it will get rid of jobs, but it's going to make more jobs. Maybe. I don't think it will. I think that the mechanism is going to be relatively slow and insipid. So we all expect, and the media feeds into this, kind of a big dramatic wholesale sweeping away of jobs. Poor Margaret, who's been in her job for 40 years, is sitting at her desk and then she's given a pink slip. And the reason is you're being replaced by AI. Get out of here. Get out of here, Margaret. I don't think it's going to be so much that. People getting fired because of AI. I think it's going to be more insipid. I think it's going to be we're seeing it already, the erosion of entry-level positions. Because AI right now is very good at algorithmic repetitive tasks, pattern matching, for example, which tends to be the stuff that you do at a lower level of an organization. So in a profession like law, a lot of the training, the first few years, is discovery. Discovery is basically reading through huge amounts of information, finding patterns. Yeah, sounds familiar. There's a tool we have that's very good at that. It's called AI. So what we'll probably see, I keep saying probably, we're already seeing it, is an erosion of the lower levels. And it's going to be across various different industries, because suddenly you can bring in less people and they will be just as productive as having more people. So instead of hiring 100 people, you might be able to hire 20, give them AI tools, and they're able to do the work of 100. That means that those 80 people who graduate with a law degree or whatever it is, whatever the profession is, they're sitting around twiddling their thumbs. And we're seeing this in computer science in particular. The unemployment rate for computer science in America is 6.1% right now, between the ages of 21 and 30, so younger generations. Whereas the unemployment rate for the same age in America for art history grads is only 3%. So we're seeing an excess unemployment in computer science for the first time because people were told, learn to code, learn computer science, and you're going to be fine. We had things like Coal to Code, which was retraining miners in how to code. That looks like it may not be the secure route to a highly paying job, which is a concern for all of those people who've just gone through that training. I still think it's very important to learn to code and definitely learn some Python. But if you've spent years learning that and you've come out into the job market and suddenly there's 6% unemployment in your particular sector, that's a worry. But we're going to see this across industry after industry, not all at the same time, because AI has a jagged frontier. It is good at some things, it's not so good at other things, and it doesn't progress in all areas at the same time. So some areas will be affected before others. Some jobs will be safer because robotics has not caught up yet. So anything that's physical is going to take a bit longer because we don't have general purpose robotics yet. They are not cheap enough. That's probably going to be the next big thing if I was a betting man. But robotics has not yet had its ChatGPT moment. Not yet. There are other things like requiring human empathy and tasks that are highly non-algorithmic. So I like to use nursing as my example of a very safe job, because nursing is physical, very physical sometimes. It is empathic, so you need to be able to communicate with lots of different people, calm them down, make sure they're feeling comfortable, and it is non-algorithmic. When you go in for a shift, you do not know what you're going to be doing on that particular day. You're not doing the same task day after day, like you might be if you're sitting at an Excel sheet and plugging numbers in, moving numbers around. So nursing is a great example of a job that is probably safe for a longer time. Most care professions, honestly. Whereas if your job is non-physical, so you're sitting at a computer all day, it is algorithmic, you're doing repetitive tasks, and it doesn't require human empathy, you're mainly talking to a computer, it's at risk. And it will be the lower levels that will go first, but then we'll see the bottom of the pyramid starting to be eroded in every industry. And then we have less people at the low level, less juniors, so we don't need as many managers. If we don't need as many managers, do we need as many leaders, etc.? And it will start to collapse in. The counter argument to this is, if we can just hire the same amount of people, we can keep the hiring up. That's not what's happening right now. Currently hiring is dropping, but if we kept the hiring up, potentially the companies could use AI and more hires to produce even more. That requires the economy as a whole to be booming, because now every company is producing more. It has more to sell, whether it's services like legal services or maybe whether you're making widgets. You now have a greater supply in each company and in each company in that industry because you're using AI. So you now need more cash in the system. You need more buyers to soak up that supply. So we need an increase in demand at the same time. If we get that, then people can keep their jobs, and then humanity just leaps on to the next level of productivity, basically. The problem is, I don't think that's going to happen. I think the reverse will happen, and we will have some companies who are using AI, they hire less people because they don't need as many people, which means you have more people unemployed, which means you have less money circulating in the economy to buy goods and services, which means that the companies don't need to grow or won't grow, and yeah, it all comes crashing down. Unfortunately, one of the ways that capitalism works is people go to work to earn an income, to buy goods and services from the companies that they're working for. And we have this little cycle which somehow has managed to survive more or less intact for the last couple of 100 years. AI could kick the bottom out of that. So we might need to look at alternatives. And that's why people are talking about UBI and other schemes like that. We do have to remember that capitalism as we know it is relatively new. We're in the paradigm of capitalism right now, so we think this is the only way that it can be. That's not necessarily the case. There definitely are alternatives, but there may be emendations and changes we can make. How it will affect the job market, it's complicated. And it depends, and nobody knows. That's the other important thing. Anyone who says with any certainty this is what's going to happen is either lying or they don't know what they're talking about. We can make educated guesses, but I think the more honest intellectual position right now is to be like, ooh, I don't know. What I would say is be ready. So you can be ready for whatever happens by having flexibility. So if you have one job in one industry and one skill set, that makes you very at risk for whatever comes. So we know, the only thing we know is that there's going to be some kind of change. There's going to be a shake-up. We don't necessarily know the form of that. We don't know what industries it's going to affect, what jobs it's going to affect, etc. But if you diversify, you learn new skills, you start a new business, you get other income sources coming in, you build an audience, for example. This is something I always go on about. It gives you a solid foundation to pivot and move in whatever direction you need to move in. If and when whatever happens. But if we just bury our head in the sand, stay in our 9-to-5 jobs and hope for the best, it's going to be rough. There's no other way around that, I'm afraid. But the fact that you guys are watching a live with a British nerd talking about AI tells me you're already starting to think about these things. You're engaging with these topics already, which means you're in a much better position than 99% of humanity. So just stay flexible and stay curious, and they should be fine. I was about to throw in the UBI, yeah. It's a solution, it's a complicated one, and the problem with humanity is we don't tend to do anything until it's like crunch time. It's only when things are going really wrong that we're like, let's fix it. So I don't think anything proactive is going to happen. I don't think any of our governments are going to step up and proactively deal with this in the future. Also, most of our governments are just thinking a year or two ahead. This is where China does have an edge on us in AI in particular, is that their plans are decades ahead. So they can actually think and plan on the longer scale. Whereas here it tends to be 4 years maximum until the next election, which is difficult when we need to deal with a history-changing technology. We need a time span that is more than 4 years. Yeah, High Fruit saying most large successful businesses will have less than 100 people versus currently 110,000 right now. I agree. We need less people to do the same amount of work. That is the calculation here. And there are companies like, what was it, the one I was looking at the other day? It's a DocuSign. Yeah, it's DocuSign. It's DocuSign who make a document signing software. It's good. It's fine. It's the industry standard. They have 8,000 employees. What are you all doing? It's a document signing solution. So I think bloated headcounts like that are in trouble because you don't need that many people, especially because we can code up our own little mini tools right now. So I could sit down and code a document signing tool for my personal use relatively easily. Sure, I won't be able to sell it as a SaaS like DocuSign do, but for my personal use, that's going to become easier and easier to do. So companies are going to be either spinning up their own internal versions, which would be highly customized, so their own Salesforce, their own DocuSign, etc. Or there's going to be new entrants coming into the market who will be able to challenge DocuSign and Salesforce. How many people has Salesforce got headcount? Because Salesforce is not a good piece of software. 76,000 people. When people can spin up their own CRM or new entrants come in with a much streamlined, easier to use, cheaper version of these tools, which is becoming easier. Like Base 44, for example, was vibe coded. So he vibe coded a vibe coding tool in 6 months and sold it for $80 million. That should tell you the kind of direction that we're heading in here. It is not about huge headcounts. It's about individuals, like this dude Shlomo, putting together tools that are just as good, but much faster and much more lean without the headcount of 75,000 people dragging down every business decision you have to make. So I'm not a fan of Salesforce. I've been forced to implement it and work with it a few times, and wow, it's old-fashioned. High Fruit saying, yeah, China's businesses and intertwined infrastructure and supply chain and internal partnerships, they win. Yeah, if they can get the chip manufacturing nailed down, that might be the ball game. So at the moment, Nvidia is still the lead in terms of chip manufacturing. China is pushing with Huawei. They're not there yet. And this is the reason, supposedly, why DeepSeek's R2 model is not released yet. It was meant to release in May, but they're doing it with internal Huawei chips, and they have not been able to do it. That's the speculation, at least. So currently, Nvidia, and this is why Nvidia is the largest company on earth at the moment, has the largest market capitalization, first $4 trillion company. They basically have the world by the throat because they are the ones who are producing the GPUs that we need to train these models. If China and Huawei specifically can catch up with their Ascend chips, that might be the ball game. What does winning look like exactly when the West uses these terms? Trump actually defined it a couple of weeks ago in his AI action plan, which is very vehemently anti-Chinese. It's basically setting America specifically against China and its adoption of the AI systems. But I think ultimately it's who can reach AGI or even ASI first, because there's a theory that it becomes a winner-takes-all situation at that point. If you can invent an AGI, you can use your AGI to set up businesses, to corner the global market. If you get to ASI, you basically rule the world. So this is what the billionaires are sprinting towards. Yeah, and it's going to be one of about 6 people on Earth who will have control of these tools. Hopefully they'll be benevolent, but right now it is corporations and individuals like Zuckerberg and Musk and Sam Altman who are the ones who will be holding the reins. JW, thoughts on relevance AI for non-coder who's learning to vibe code? I don't know it. Let me check it out. Okay, I don't know this one in particular. It looks like AI agents. If you're learning to vibe code, this looks like it's B2B, so it's for creating agents for companies. It looks fine. I'd have to try it out. There are so many of these startups now that I'm not necessarily sure which are the best. Actually, I do know which is the best. The one that I like is Stammer.ai. I'm going to give a shout out to my guy Ross as well. So Stammer.ai is very similar in that it allows you to create bots. What Stammer does that's really cool is it allows you to white label those bots, and it gives you everything that you need to go and sell them to businesses. So you can build custom agents for any business, but they have a white labeling platform so you can easily sell them, and then you can get dashboards that you give to your clients, dashboards that you can see where you can see all of your different clients, etc. So they give you the business back end as well as the ability to build the bots, which is very cool if you want to build a business out of this, which you should. You can provide a lot of value to people. So Stammer.ai would be my recommendation there. There's also N8N if you want to mess around. It's a wider platform. It's a bit more like Zapier or Make.com. And then check out Riley Goodside for tutorials on that kind of stuff as well. Bourgeoisie asked, did you ever figure out how to prove you're not AI? Yeah, we had some good suggestions. Drinking on camera at 11 a.m. was one of the suggestions. Also a clock, having an analog clock behind me. But no, it's tricky because whatever I do to prove I'm not AI, it will only work for a certain amount of time because the AI avatars are becoming more sophisticated. So it's a losing game at a certain point. I'm just not going to worry too much. It's mainly one person. They turned up on my call last night as well. One person who keeps telling me that I'm AI. I think do we have one more? Yeah, we had one more piece, but I'm not going to go into it. It's about, have a look into it, but it's about, apparently GPT-5 has discovered a new piece of mathematics. I'll quickly do it. So a guy called Sebastian Pubeck, he says, claim GPT-5 Pro can prove new interesting mathematics. Proof: I took a convex optimization paper with a clean open problem in it and asked GPT-5 Pro to work on it. It provided a better bound than what is in the paper, and I checked the proof, it's correct. So apparently GPT-5 came up with a new mathematical proof. So what GPT-5 can't do, this always confuses people. AIs cannot calculate. They are large language models. So when people ask how many R's are there in Raspberry, that is not a task that a large language model is built for because of the way the tokenization works. It can't do that. It's not about calculating. It's not about computing. We have tools that can do that. If you want to calculate something, you can use a calculator. If you want to compute something, you can use a computer. Now, you can always ask ChatGPT or any large language model to use Python. So you can say, how many R's are there in Raspberry? Use Python. And it will use Python and tell you how many R's are in Raspberry. Done. But it cannot do it by itself because that's not what it's really made for. So this confuses people because AIs like this thinking models can do highly advanced mathematics. So recently we saw a few models win the gold medal in the International Math Olympiad. I'm trying not to say the S on the end of that. The Math Olympiad, by just acing the test basically. And so this confuses people. It can't add up, it can't count, but it can do really high level maths. Why is that? It's because when you're doing really high level maths, you're not doing arithmetic. You're not multiplying numbers. It's about logical proofs. It's about thinking through problems and providing proofs. So it's much more akin to how a large language model works than the calculation. So this causes confusion, and this is why. But people go on about this stupid Raspberry thing. Every time a new model comes out, people are like, how many R's are there in Raspberry? Like, that's not what it's for. But it's very good, really good at high-end mathematics. So what it's been doing so far is nailing the International Math Olympiad, which is a set of questions, so we know the answers to that already. What has just happened, this guy Sebastian is saying, is that it has proven a new piece of mathematics. Now, I don't know enough about mathematics to look at this and be able to say, oh yeah, yes it can. But there's a guy called Ernest Ryu, who is professor of mathematics at UCLA. Cool. He's going to know a bit more. So he says, this is a really interesting and impressive, and this stuff is my area of mathematics research, convex optimization. So I have a nuanced take, says Ernest. So Ernest goes through the proof and he says, the proof itself is arguably not very difficult for an expert in convex optimization if the problem is given. And then he's going to go through all of the mathematics, and I'm not going to read it out because it is unintelligible. But then at the end, here we go. The proof is something that an experienced PhD student could work out in a few hours. Okay. That GPT-5 can do it within 30 seconds of human input is impressive and potentially very useful to the right user. However, GPT-5 is by no means exceeding the capability of human experts. So this is a guy who actually knows his stuff, and he's saying it is not moving into a new realm of mathematics, but it is providing a new proof, but it is a proof that a PhD level mathematician could work out in a couple of hours. But the fact that they are doing it, GPT-5 is doing it within 30 seconds, is impressive. So I think this is a more nuanced, probably helpful take, because this is currently doing the rounds as the viral post of the day. I'm sure we'll see headlines like GPT-5 is the new Einstein, pushes the boundaries of mathematics, etc., etc. It's doing very high-level maths very well, but it is not doing something new, but it's doing something very high-level extremely fast. I think that's probably the nuanced take on it. Whether or not it will be able to push to something new, maybe that's the next step. And again, mathematics is not my strong point, so we'd have to look at people like this, Ernest Ryo, and get their studied opinions on this, because they know a lot more than this. Also, lots of AI is now happening at these levels, where it is high-end coding, high-end mathematics, high-end engineering problems, etc. So it's increasingly out of the realms of the layperson to realize or to follow what's going on. It doesn't stop us from writing headlines about it. GPT-5 breaks maths. I'm sure we'll see that. Clickbait, but the reality is still very exciting that we have tools that can do what a human PhD mathematician would take hours, it could do in 30 seconds. That is the headline. Less exciting, but I think more positive for humanity. Okay, so I've wrapped up. We're at 1 hour. I'm getting so good at yapping. Fantastic. Thank you, everybody. I don't do the lives at the weekend, so I will see you Monday. On Monday, I'm flying to Stockholm. I'm going to do the Monday morning live, no problem. Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, etc. will depend on my internet. Stockholm has internet, so I'm sure it'll be fine. I just need to make sure that it is fast enough while I'm traveling. I also need to work out my traveling rig as well. So thank you, everybody. As always, make sure you are subscribed on YouTube if you want to get these videos. And there is a newsletter, which is totally free, comes out every single day, which has a written summary of what's been covered in the live, as well as some other goodies. We're doing lots of things over AI with Kyle, lots of exciting things. I built a new tool, actually. If you go to aiwithkyle.com, scroll to the bottom, you'll find the tools. And there's a really cool one there that has just launched, which helps you work out what business you should be starting using artificial intelligence. So there's a lot of different opportunities, a lot of things you could be looking at. So I've created a quiz that helps you navigate through to one of 3 different possibilities. And then it gives you the next steps as well, and a guide to help you get that implemented, because there's a lot of information out about there and I want to make sure you're pointing in the right direction. Awesome. So thank you, everybody, and have a lovely weekend, and I'll see you Monday, and then hopefully the rest of the week from Sweden as well. Have a lovely weekend. Bye.